When someone pulls away, when they create distance, your first instinct is often panic. Your mind screams, what did I do wrong? Why are they slipping away? But what if I told you that their distance isn't the end, it's the beginning? It's not rejection, it's an invitation. An invitation for you to rise, to transform, to become the kind of person who doesn't just attract but captivates. See, distance only hurts you when you make it about lack. But the moment you shift your perspective, when you decide that they're pulling away, gives you space to expand, to become magnetic, everything changes. Because obsession doesn't grow from casing. Obsession is born when you embody something so rare, so unshakable that they cannot ignore you. You've got to understand people who avoid closeness, who retreat into silence, are not looking for someone to chase them down. They are looking deep down for someone who feels safe, certain, powerful, someone who does not collapse when tested. That's what awakens craving. That's what makes them rethink the walls they built. Your presence has to be felt even when you're not in the room. That means standing tall in your own worth. It means crafting a life so rich, so full of energy and purpose that they can't help but feel the pull. Imagine them sitting alone, thinking about you, and realizing that your absence feels heavier than your presence ever did before. That's how distance turns into longing. That's how longing turns into obsession. Don't beg, don't chase, don't shrink. Instead, amplify your certainty, amplify your peace, amplify your growth. The moment you stop trying to convince them and instead embody who you were always meant to be, they feel it. On a level they can't even explain. They start craving your stability, your energy, your fire. And here's the divine truth: love isn't about erasing someone's defenses. It's about becoming so powerful in your own energy that their defenses collapse in your presence. You don't fight their distance, you master yourself so completely that their distance becomes the very thing that drives them back to you. So the next time an avoidant retreats, don't see it as loss. See it as the stage where your transformation begins. Because when you rise, when you embody your highest power, their distance is no longer a wall. It's the very bridge that leads them back, obsessed, captivated, and unable to let you go. When you're faced with distance from someone you care about, especially an avoidant, the first emotion that often rises is fear. You feel a tightening in your chest, a panic that whispers, I'm losing them. That fear can quickly become desperation, and desperation is the very energy that pushes them further away. But what if instead of collapsing into fear, you chose to step into power? What if you understood that every time someone pulls back, it's not a verdict on your worth, but an opportunity to rise into a higher version of yourself? Distance does not have to equal rejection. Distance can become the fuel that ignites your strength. Fear tells you that their silence means abandonment. Power reminds you that their silence is simply space. And space, when embraced, allows growth. It allows you to reconnect with the truth that you are already enough. You don't need to chase to prove your value. You don't need to beg to prove your worth. The person who becomes magnetic is not the one who grasps tighter when someone withdraws, but the one who radiates confidence regardless of who stays or who leaves. That's the paradox. When you stop letting fear dictate your actions, you shift the entire dynamic. When you live in fear, you become reactive. You text too quickly, you ask too many questions, you read into every pause and hesitation. But when you step into power, you shift from reaction to creation. You're no longer waiting to see what they will do. You're designing who you will become. And that energy, calm, grounded, certain, is irresistible. The avoidant who thrives on distance doesn't expect to find someone who remains centered, someone who doesn't flinch when space is introduced. That strength unsettles them in the best way because deep down they crave stability. They crave someone who doesn't get swept away by fear. Every time you encounter their withdrawal, you stand at a crossroads. One road is ruled by fear, where you abandon yourself in the hope they will not abandon you. The other road is ruled by power, where you embrace the distance as a mirror showing you where you need to grow. That's where transformation happens. Because the moment you choose power, you stop seeing their behavior as something that diminishes you, and you start using it as a catalyst to elevate yourself. This is not about ignoring your emotions. It's about directing them. It's about taking that fear and channeling it into energy that builds you instead of breaks you. Fear is natural, but it doesn't have to be the driver of your decisions. Power is born when you acknowledge fear, but refuse to let it control you. And when you stand in that place, when you rise in strength instead of shrinking in panic, you not only shift how they perceive you, you shift how you perceive yourself. That's where true magnetism is born. Presence is not about what you say or do in a single moment. It's about the energy you carry with you, the vibration that lingers long after you've left the room. When you master the art of presence, you create a magnetic force that cannot be denied. An avoidant who often pulls away to protect themselves doesn't respond to pressure or force. They respond to energy. And the most powerful energy you can bring is a calm, grounded, certain presence that communicates safety without words. Most people confuse presence with performance. They think they need to entertain, impress, or constantly prove their value. But true presence is the opposite. It's the quiet confidence that radiates from someone who knows who they are, who doesn't need to fill silence with noise, who can simply be without fear. That kind of presence is rare, and because it's rare, it's unforgettable. The avoidant notices it. They feel it even when they resist it. Imagine being in a room with someone who isn't trying to win you over, but simply embodies a sense of certainty. Their eye contact isn't aggressive but steady. Their body language isn't tense but relaxed. Their energy isn't desperate but full. That kind of presence is powerful because it doesn't demand, it invites. And human beings, especially those who struggle with closeness, are drawn to what feels inviting rather than overwhelming. Presence is the bridge that allows you to connect without crossing their boundaries. To master presence, you have to detach from outcome. If your energy says, I need you to validate me, the avoidant feels it immediately and retreats. But if your energy says, I am whole with or without you, they begin to lean in. Presence communicates self-worth in ways words never can. It's why some people walk into a room and instantly draw attention without saying a single thing. They have cultivated an inner alignment that radiates outward, and that radiance is magnetic. Presence is also about consistency. Anyone can be centered for a moment, but true presence shows up day after day, regardless of circumstances. It's the anchor in the storm, the calm in the chaos. When you embody that, you become the person an avoidant doesn't fear losing themselves with, but instead begins to trust. They may not articulate it, but on a deep level, they feel safer around someone who doesn't get swallowed up by insecurity. That's what draws them closer, even if they resist at first. The beautiful part about presence is that it doesn't require chasing, forcing, or manipulating. It's cultivated through inner work, through building self-awareness, healing old wounds, and learning to stand tall in your own identity. When you do that, your presence speaks louder than any words you could ever say. It tells the avoidant, I am here, I am steady, and I don't need to chase you because I already know my value. That kind of presence doesn't just attract, it captivates. Chasing is the great illusion of love. It convinces you that the more you run after someone, the more they will see your devotion and reward you with closeness. But in truth, chasing creates the opposite effect. It suffocates, it overwhelms, it strips you of your power. When you learn to detach from the chase, you step into the rare energy of self-worth, and that is the very thing that makes you magnetic. An avoidant doesn't run from love itself. They run from the feeling of being consumed. The moment you stop trying to convince them of your value and instead embody it, the entire dynamic shifts. Detachment is not about indifference, and it's not about pretending you don't care. It's about realizing that your worth does not hinge on whether someone comes closer or pulls away. The person who embodies self-worth understands that love cannot be forced and connection cannot be begged for. When you stop chasing, you send a powerful message. I choose to be desired, not tolerated. I choose to be valued, not appeased. I know who I am, and I don't have to lose myself to gain you. That energy unsettles the avoidant in the best way, because it challenges the walls they've built. Think about the times you've chased, the frantic texts, the anxious need for reassurance, the restless waiting. Did any of those actions actually bring the other person closer? Or did they deepen the distance? Chasing communicates lack. It screams, I need you to complete me. But detachment communicates abundance. It says, I am already complete, and I invite you to walk with me, but I do not need you to hold me together. That's what creates attraction that lasts, because no one craves to be someone else's lifeline. They crave to be someone's choice. When you detach from the chase, you reclaim your energy. You no longer spend it obsessing over what they're doing, when they'll respond, or why they've pulled back. You redirect that energy toward your own growth, your own expansion, your own fulfillment. You live a life that excites you, and in doing so, you become naturally magnetic. The avoidant, who once felt suffocated by pressure, now feels drawn toward you, because your energy no longer demands, it inspires. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop negotiating your value. It means you stop treating love as a battlefield where the one who pushes hardest wins. Detachment is freedom, the freedom to love without clinging, to desire without desperation, to connect without losing yourself. And here's the paradox: the moment you release the chase, the avoidant begins to feel the pull. They sense your independence, your groundedness, your wholeness. And suddenly, instead of running from you, they find themselves running toward you. Absence can feel like a void, a sharp reminder of what isn't there. When an avoidant pulls away, your instinct may be to fill that space with messages, with pursuit, with constant reminders that you're still present. But true power lies in transforming absence into magnetism. Instead of fearing the silence, you use it as a stage to display your independence, your growth, and your unshakable confidence. When you live fully in that space, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. The avoidant who once thought they needed distance begins to feel that distance working against them, because it magnifies what they're missing. Magnetism is not about being constantly available. It's about becoming unforgettable. When you retreat into yourself with purpose, when you invest in your passions, your work, your health, your joy, You create an energy field that resonates beyond physical proximity. The avoidant starts to notice that even in their silence, you are thriving. You are not waiting by the phone. You are not collapsing in despair. You are expanding. That expansion is felt. They may not admit it, but it stirs something deep inside them. It challenges the story they've told themselves, that closeness means suffocation. Instead, your independence shows them that closeness can coexist with freedom. This transformation requires discipline. It requires resisting the urge to prove yourself in their absence. Every unanswered text or unreturned call is an opportunity to strengthen your presence through your actions, not your pursuit. The more you pour into your own life, the more magnetic you become. People are drawn to those who radiate purpose. They are drawn to those who live with passion and certainty. And when an avoidant sees that you can stand strong without them, paradoxically, they begin to crave being part of your orbit again. Absence also magnifies contrast. If your life dims when they pull away, they feel no urgency to return. But if your light grows brighter in their absence, they begin to feel the cost of distance. They feel the difference between being connected to you and being disconnected. They feel the weight of what they're missing, and that creates a powerful gravitational pull. Your absence becomes the reminder of your uniqueness, your energy, your irreplaceable presence. This is not about playing games or pretending you don't care. It's about embodying a truth so profound that it cannot be ignored. You are whole. You are complete. You are a force unto yourself. That truth doesn't just attract, it compels. It makes the avoidant realize that distance doesn't protect them, it isolates them from something extraordinary. And once they feel that contrast, once they realize that your absence carries more weight than your presence ever begged for, they begin to lean back toward you. Not because you chased, but because your magnetism made staying away impossible. Communication is not just about words, it's about energy, intention, and precision. When you are dealing with someone who leans avoidant, every careless word can feel like a threat. Every emotional outpouring can feel like pressure. Their defenses are finely tuned, built over years of self-protection, and if you try to storm those defenses with force, they only reinforce them stronger. The key is learning to communicate in a way that bypasses the walls, reaching the deeper layers of need that they rarely admit even to themselves. This requires emotional precision, the ability to connect not just to what they hear, but to what they feel beneath the surface. Think about the difference between speaking to be heard and speaking to be felt. Most people talk to prove their point, to release their emotions, or to demand something in return. But when you're communicating with an avoidant, that approach often backfires. They interpret the weight of your words as intrusion. Emotional precision means you strip away the noise and focus on essence. You speak from clarity, from truth, from love without demand. That's when your words begin to land, not as pressure, but as resonance. Precision also requires timing. You can't flood someone in a moment when they're already retreating. Instead, you attune yourself to their state. You sense when they're more open, when the air is softer, when their defenses are less rigid. And in those moments, a single sentence can do what 100 frantic messages never could. It can plant a seed that grows in the quiet, a seed that lingers in their mind long after the conversation ends. This is how you turn distance into connection, by respecting the rhythms of their heart and entering at the right time with the right words. Another layer of emotional precision is intention. If your intention is to pull them closer to soothe your own insecurity, they will feel it and they will retreat further. But if your intention is to connect, to understand, to give space for them to exist as they are, they feel safety. They may not articulate it, but deep down safety is what every avoidant craves. They fear being consumed, but they long to be accepted. When your communication carries the intention of safety rather than pressure, their defenses begin to soften. This doesn't mean you dilute your truth. Precision is not about walking on eggshells. It's about knowing the difference between expression and projection. When you project, you make them responsible for your feelings. When you express with precision, you share your experience without demand. Instead of saying, "You never want to be close to me," you might say, "I feel most connected to you in moments of openness, and I value those times." The first statement feels like an attack. The second feels like an invitation. Both are true, but only one creates space for closeness. Emotional precision is also non-verbal. Your tone, your posture, your presence all communicate more than your words. If your voice trembles with desperation, no words will mask it. But if your voice carries calm certainty, even silence becomes powerful. Sometimes the most precise communication is not saying anything at all, but simply holding space with presence, allowing the other person to feel without needing to respond. That level of mastery creates a sense of trust that words alone cannot build. When you practice emotional precision, you're not trying to fix or control the avoidant. You're aligning yourself with truth, clarity, and compassion. You're creating a space where defenses no longer feel necessary. And when that happens, something remarkable unfolds. The person who once resisted connection begins to lean into it. Not because you forced them, but because your communication reached past their armor and spoke directly to the core of their being. When someone creates distance, it's easy to mirror that energy. You feel them pull away, and your instinct is either to chase or to retreat completely. But what an avoidant truly needs, what they secretly crave, is not someone who mirrors their uncertainty, but someone who embodies stability. To become the anchor in their storm means you offer a consistency they didn't know they needed. It means that while they are swept away by fear, doubt, or overthinking, you remain grounded, calm, and certain. That kind of presence is rare, and because it is rare, it becomes magnetic. Avoidants often build their walls because the world has taught them that closeness equals pain. They've learned to depend only on themselves, to shut out others as a way of staying safe. When they test you by pulling back, they are unconsciously asking, will you collapse when I retreat? Will you react like everyone else? If you chase, you confirm their fear. If you withdraw in anger, you confirm their fear. But when you remain steady, when you anchor yourself in certainty, you show them something they're not used to, a love that doesn't crumble under pressure. Anchoring yourself doesn't mean you tolerate mistreatment or abandon your own needs. It means you cultivate such a strong inner foundation that their storms cannot shake you. You don't lose yourself when they distance themselves. Instead, you stay rooted in who you are. You stay consistent in your energy, in your self-respect, in your ability to give without desperation. This steadiness communicates safety, and safety is the very thing that draws them back. Imagine the power of being the calm in the chaos. While they retreat to process, you continue to live fully. You continue to pursue your growth, your joy, your purpose. You don't send messages filled with panic, nor do you shut down in bitterness. You hold steady. And in that steadiness, they feel something different. They feel that your connection is not based on fear or dependency. It's based on strength. That strength is what begins to dismantle their defenses because they realize they no longer have to carry all the weight alone. Becoming the anchor also means offering certainty in your actions. Avoidants are used to inconsistency. They've experienced people who say one thing and do another. When you align your words with your actions, when you show up with integrity, they begin to trust you in ways they don't easily trust others. That trust doesn't develop overnight, but with each moment of consistency, with each calm response instead of reactivity, their walls weaken. They start to see that distance doesn't push you into chaos, it reveals your depth. There is also a divine principle at play here. Love is not about controlling or chasing. It is about embodying stability so powerful that others feel drawn into it. When you anchor yourself, you embody that principle. You're not trying to fix the avoidant, and you're not trying to manipulate them into closeness. You're simply being the steady force that allows them to experience safety in a way they rarely do. And safety, for someone who has spent their life running from connection, is irresistible. The more you embody this role, the more their storm loses its power over you. And paradoxically, the more they realize they want to be near your calm, your steadiness becomes the antidote to their chaos. Your certainty becomes the light in their confusion. And without forcing it, without casing, without begging, you transform distance into desire. You become the one presence they can't easily walk away from because you represent the very stability their heart has always longed for. In the end, what turns distance into obsession is not force, not pleading, not fear, but your decision to rise to the highest version of yourself, to stand in power, to radiate presence, to detach from chasing, to transform absence into magnetism, to communicate with precision, and to become the steady anchor in every storm. When you embody this energy, you no longer fear their withdrawal because you know that your strength, your certainty, and your light are irresistible. You become unforgettable, not by demanding love, but by living in such alignment that love cannot help but be drawn to you. Thank you for sharing your time and energy with me today. Carry these truths into your life with courage, apply them with faith, and remember, the power to transform distance into connection has always lived within you. Until next time, stay strong, stay present, and goodbye for now.